Hello everyone, it's Omar from Casual Meeple, and today we are having a closer look at Nibiru RPG Quickstart Guide, the free PDF booklet that you can get from Drive Thru RPG right now if you want to get a bit of a taster of what Nibiru is, what setting it offers, and how the game really plays. We're going to have a look of what's inside the book and we're going to cover the basic mechanics, so make sure to watch the video. If you are interested in learning more about Nibiru, make sure to watch the last video on our channel in which I had an interview with the lead writer of Nibiru, Federico Sons. So, without further ado, let's have a look inside. See you in a minute. Okay, so let's have a look what's inside our quick start guide. As we open, we can see that there are two parts to it, and volume 1, called Welcome to Nibiru, is more about the mechanics. It looks at what modifiers we apply, how roles work over here, and we've got contested and special roles, how body and mind system works, combat, and so on. But most importantly, it introduces the Memo System, which I will talk about in a minute. The second part, called Bertha's Song, looks more about the example adventure, let's say, or example scenario we have over here in 6 scenes. So that's a bit of a MG's version of it, where you can look through, and this is a good way to teach someone or have a taste a game to actually see whether you will enjoy it or not. And I can tell you now, most likely you will. But what it also does, it offers us a bit background about Vagabonds, who they are, or Brighttown, what it actually is, so we can learn a bit more about the setting. So let's have a look at how the game plays and what actually are the rules themselves. So in this section we are looking at how the mechanics work, and the core mechanic is very simple. Pretty much we roll 3d4s and see if we get a 4. If we manage to get a single 4, that means that the action was successful, and that's about it. It changes a bit when we are talking about contested actions. So for example, combat is when I'm trying to hit someone while they are actively trying to either hit me back or avoid it. Then this slightly changes. But in a very basic principle, you roll the dice and look for 4s. There is a very special thing that happens if we roll all 1s, which would be all terrible failures, or if we manage to roll all 4s, then the Memo System comes in play. But about Memo System, I'm going to talk in a second. Okay, so let's talk about modifiers. As certain actions might be easier or more difficult to actually do or to perform, we need to be aware that this is the moment when MG might decide to add or take away or subtract a certain number of dice from your roll. So let's say I'm really terrible at shooting and I've hurt myself before while shooting a gun. GM might say that I'm only rolling 2 dice, which means I have a smaller chance of actually getting success. However, on the other side, if, for example, I am really skilled at doing something, and let's say I'm trying to jump over the gap and I've been practicing parkour as a kid, I might get another dice. So my chances of actually getting a success grow higher. So one thing in Nibiru, when we talk about modifiers, we talk about number of dice, not about the result itself. Okay, so one of the interesting things over here is influence points, which we get throughout the game, and we start the game with 2. Now, I could use my influence points to just reroll a single die or any die I really want. Or what I could do is trigger a Deja Vu. How Deja Vu works is that I kind of make a small change to the scene that GM just explained to me in order to give myself an edge. Let's say I'm falling down the cliff and I might use one of my influence points to say that I found the cable and then roll what I've managed to have it. Now in this case I have 2 4s and a 1, which means I would manage to grab that cable and I would not fall to my death, which makes quite an interesting movie-like scene. Another interesting thing about it is that the game introduces body and mind tracker, which means that we might not only get hurt, which would affect our body, but our mental state might also get affected and we might end up insane. Whether we are dead because someone shot us to death or whether we go insane, really that means that our character is out of play. And why would that hurt so much? That's where the Memo System comes in hand. So let's have a closer look at the Memo System. Now, in order to fully understand Memo System, we need to move a bit further and have a look at the character sheet. Now over here we have not only standard information like name, gender and habitat, which in this case works really more like an archetype or a class, if you will. We have list of items we carry and some short notes giving us basic description, as well as the body and mind tracker with our memory points and influence points. Now, I already explained what influence points do and how we can use them, but this is the time for memory points and memories themselves. So you will notice that a character sheet will have place for memories and their effects. Because, as we know, Nibiru is a game about lost memories, and getting these memories back is a big part of your character development. We don't really think in here about levels or XP. What we are really thinking about is getting memories back from our life that we have forgotten already, because this is how we get skills to go back to us. Okay, there are three main ways in which a character may acquire memory points. First of all, we will get one after the end of each session. Second of all, we can if we follow our beacon, or if we play to the class or archetype we have chosen. Because in Nibiru we don't really have classes, we have more about your origin stories. Where you come from will determine what kind of character you are and what kind of skills you might acquire. And finally, the most interesting part for me, at least, is that we can choose to actively fail the role in order to get memory points. A good example would be that, let's say my character is holding a gun, and instead of shooting someone, I decide that I fail miserably and shoot myself in my foot. Now, because of that, my character will get a permanent penalty, -1 dice. So every single time from that point on, if I will be shooting a gun, I will be using only 2 dice. But that action and the choosing to fail will also give me memory points, which later on I can use to give myself good memories and bring back the skills, which will give me permanent bonuses. So as you can see, the Memo system looks not only at making your character stronger, but it also adds a backstory. So your failures will be haunting you, while your successes and your skills from the past might come back to you when you really need them. So I think this is one of the best parts about the game, and the Memo system really works. So we talked about how bad memories are made, but how do I make positive ones? Pretty much at any point, if I have enough memory points, I might decide to spend them to give myself a permanent bonus and add a memory to my character sheet. If I want the bonus to be a single die, so instead of 3 I will roll 4, I can use 2 memory points from my points that I accrued. If I want to have a +2 dice bonus, I need to spend 3 memory points. If I want to get an amazing +3 dice, which means I will be rolling 6 dice, which is the limit for a player, I would have to spend 5 memory points. So maybe I will decide that I'm really terrible with guns, like I've mentioned before, and I will decide that I have -2 to shooting. That will give me 2 memory points, but I will be able to spend these points to give myself a bonus. So as you can see, the strengths and weaknesses are really coming here, and it's going to be all about striking a balance. One of the examples is over here, about how a girl trapped in a room is trying to recall what really happened in the past and why was she so good at being able to force that door open. I remember being locked up inside the barn by my older brother, laying alone with my scruffy looking teddy bear. He always did this, until the day I gathered all my strength and busted the door open. And at this stage, the player would write down the memory in the character sheet, like I've shown you before, over here, and write the permanent bonus that this would incur later throughout the whole game. So now let's have a look at Volume 2. So in Volume 2, called Bertha's Song, we have a bit of an introduction to our short adventure for us to run with our friends to see how the game plays and get to know the system a bit better. Now I won't go into much detail because from this point on I would be spoiling the adventure itself, but it gives us a bit more about some of the settings, so what the core is, what are blazing holes and the core sectors and outer reaches of Nibiru itself. Now remember that beyond Penumbra and outer reaches there is the darkness, and darkness is the place where not many people really go and no one really knows what's out there. We have some legends and we have heard stories, but we are not really sure what's there. So possibly we might decide that discovering what's in the darkness might become our goal, and so on. So this setting is really rich, and we can see that the game lends itself more to the science than only the fiction part of the sci-fi. Like Federico said in our interview, it's all about bringing science to the science fiction genre. Now, as also you've noticed, the game has body and mind, which I've mentioned before, which means that the game will lend itself to the horror aspects. So the unknown will be a big part in how we can build our horror into the game, which hopefully with a good GM will make sure that you remember your scares for a very long time. So I guess that's it about our quick start guide. So now let's move on to our final thoughts and see what do I really think about Nibiru and why I like the system so much. So what are my final thoughts on Nibiru? If I'm being honest with you, I really like it. I really like how the system works, and I love the Memo System, which for me not only is something really new and something refreshing, quite innovative an idea, but also blends the narrative of the game, which is my favorite part of RPG, with the core mechanics of the game. In here, it's not about getting XP, it's not about gaining experience through killing and doing quests. In here, it's all about self-discovery. As I go through things, I need to learn that nothing comes for free and I'm not going to suddenly grow to be an amazing character. It's through the hardships or through the things I've messed up in my past that I can actually now grow stronger and grow better. What I really like is that it forces you to think in a narrative aspect of the game, because in here it's not about getting statistic higher, it's all about the memories I bring back. In the end, trying to open the door is not that difficult, but doing that with a kick will require a bit more, and maybe if I've done it before, maybe if let's say I was a fireman, that will bring there, and as I will play, my character will get fleshed out. So I think Nibiru is actually quite a good system for people who are trying RPGs for the first time, because the game itself helps them build the characters as they go through their adventure or the story. Now, another thing why I really like Nibiru is the fact that it has the body and mind system. And for me, as a big fan of horror genre, it's a really lovely thing to see. Now I know that there are a lot of games that address this issue, but in here, one of the really interesting things that came out from my interview with Federico was that when they were working on the mind system, they were actually working with people from mental health, and they've learned from them how it affects you. So one of the examples that Federico gave was that the more I do something, the more I get accustomed to it, whether it's going to be violence. At certain point, violence will become such a mundane thing for me that the way in which I will kill someone is going to seem so cold-blooded for others that it might scare the shit out of them. Now, we don't get that much often in a lot of RPGs nowadays, do we? So now what I can tell you is that what you should do is go to the link below and get yourself the copy of Quick Start Guide yourself from Drive Thru RPG. Because basically you can get it for free, but it will give you a really good look into what Nibiru is, what you can expect from it, and why it's a system that is worth your time. Now I hope that after playing it once or twice, you're going to feel as positive as I am, so then you will be waiting for the Kickstarter, which, as we've learnt in our interview, is coming on 1st December. So make sure to start saving up your money, so when Nibiru comes out over here, we are ready to back it. Thanks a lot for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment below. What do you think about Nibiru? If you had a game, tell me and leave a comment, how did it go and did you enjoy it or not?